Hey guys, welcome back. I'm having a really hard time trying to start this video. I've actually filmed this video 4 times. 1 time completely all the way through, and 3 times about 3/4 of the way through, and for some reason I cannot get through it. I don't know why. I'm going to talk about when I had cancer, and the reason that I'm doing that is because very recently I hit my 5-year remission anniversary, which was a huge milestone for me. I've been looking forward to that for a very long time, and once I hit that day, I thought to myself, okay, I can set my superstition aside and I can make a video talking about when I had cancer. I can make a video about my cancer story. So here I am, but for some reason I'm having a really hard time with this. Alright, so usually when people find out that I have had cancer, they ask me 2 questions. The first question almost always is, what kind of cancer did you have? And the second question usually is, how did you find out? Like, that seems to be something that people are really interested in. Like, they really want to know, how the heck did you find out that you had cancer? I thought that I would kind of use those 2 questions to lead into the video. So I had leukemia. I had acute myeloid leukemia, to be more exact. Leukemia is a cancer of the blood and the bone marrow. And I was diagnosed with that in November of 2011. November 11th of 2011, to be more exact, which is 11/11/11, and I'll get into that later. So kind of leading into how I found out. At that time I was working for a mobile company. I'm an ultrasound tech, and so my job was to drive to nursing homes, private homes, jails, anywhere that people had difficulty getting around. I would go to them and I would do their ultrasounds for them. So that summer in particular, that summer into fall, I was working a lot. I lived in Cleveland, so I was sort of very north. I lived in a suburb of Cleveland. I could walk to Lake Erie from my house. Just to tell you how north I was. Well, I was driving to the very southern part of Ohio, 4.5 hours, just to do a couple of ultrasounds, and then I would turn around and drive right back to Cleveland. Well, sometimes I was working anywhere from, let's say, 10 to 15 hours a day, depending on how many stops I had. So, of course, I was tired. Like, I was tired a lot and I was fatigued. I'm not the kind of person to go see my doctor because I'm tired. I'm just not. So, during that time, I believe this was September, the company that I was working for called me. My boss called me and he said, hey, you know, we realized we don't have a physical for you on record. I was like, are you kidding? It's been 5 years now, all of a sudden you want me to go have a physical done? And he's like, yeah. So, okay, whatever. So me being as stubborn as I am, because the company would not pay for the physical, I had to pay for it myself. So me being as stubborn as I am, I waited until the very last day that this physical was due to go and get it done, right? Because I'm going to show them. I probably ended up hurting myself more by waiting till the very last day. So anyway, I go see the doctor. She's running through, you know, the generic questions on the form, and she finally gets to the last question and she says, okay, so overall, how do you feel? I said, I feel fine. I don't have any problems. I'm tired, but, you know, I'm working these crazy hours, so of course I'm going to be tired, right? So because of my history at that time, me being tired and fatigued could have meant one of 2 things. It could have meant either I had a vitamin D deficiency, which I didn't because it was still really nice outside and sunny and warm and all that, so it wasn't that. Or it could have been anemia, which I've been anemic off and on almost my entire life. No big deal. At least not to me it wasn't. So she said, you know what, I'm just going to run a basic panel on you and find out what's going on. If you're anemic, we'll get you started on some iron pills or whatever. I said, okay, fine. So I have the blood work done. She calls me back 2 days later and she goes, hey, I need you to come to the office. We have to discuss your results. I thought it was really odd that she called me because usually her nurse would call me, right? And not only that, but she called me in the evening from her cell phone, which was strange. So I said, okay. I made arrangements to get off of work early, went to her office, and she pulls up, you know, the lab work, and she turns the screen, and everything was red. So all of my labs were either crazy elevated or abnormally low, but everything was off. Everything was abnormal. So I said, well, what does this mean? She goes, well, you know what, I'm not sure, but we need to run some more lab work on you, something a little more in depth. and then I'll have more of an idea. I said, all right. I said, so what is worst case scenario? She said leukemia. I said, okay, what is best case scenario? She said a vitamin B12 deficiency, which is what I think you have. She goes, we'll give you an injection, you'll be fine. I said, okay, whatever. So because I didn't really take this seriously, and I'm thinking to myself, who cares if I'm anemic? I've got iron pills at home. I'll just start taking those. No big deal. I didn't really make much of an effort to go get that second round of blood work done. So what ended up happening in the meantime was I got really sick. I think I had, if I remember correctly, I think I might have had bronchitis, but something else was going on. This wasn't normal. I was tired a lot. And I'm not talking about just, like I could sit here and, tell you guys, oh, I feel tired. This was tired as in, like, physically could not keep my eyelids open. I couldn't keep my eyes open. I was just that tired all the time. The worst of it was probably a span of 3 or 4 days. I think it was 3 days. My husband said that I was only actually physically awake for 4 hours in a matter of 3 days. All I did was sleep. I lost weight. I was sick for 2 weeks. I lost, I think it was like 5 or 6 pounds because I couldn't stay awake long enough to eat. My son, I felt so bad for my son. He made me soup one day. He got me out of bed. We walked into the living room. I was sitting on the couch. I remember this. And I had the bowl, right? And I'm trying to eat. And I went to put the food up to my mouth, and I seriously went like this, and I started to roll back, and my son like caught my back and like held me up and took the bowl out of my hand, and I seriously hit the pillow and was out. I don't know how long I was there. So it was bad, right? So my husband comes home from work one day and he goes, this is ridiculous. You have to go see the doctor. So a couple days passed. I was starting to feel a little bit better, to where I could stay awake long enough to actually get dressed and get in the car, go see her. She gives me some antibiotics. Started taking those. They weren't working. So we went back. She gives me some different antibiotics, something stronger. And in the meantime, I developed pleurisy, which really sucks. If you've ever had it, you know. So when I'm there the second time, she's like, I noticed you didn't have this blood work done yet. This is really important. She looks at me and she goes, look, I know how you are. I know that you just blew this off because you don't think it's a big deal. She's like, but honestly, please go get this blood work done. I said, all right, fine. She goes, but you can't do it right now. She goes, you got to wait till you're not, till you're done being sick and the antibiotics have made their way through your system. I said, okay, so 2 weeks go by. 2 weeks. Finally made it back to her office to have the blood work done. That was on a Wednesday, okay? She calls me on a Friday night and she goes, listen, I got your blood work back. She goes, I don't know what's going on, but she goes, I ran that same basic panel again, plus some extra, more sort of like in-depth blood work. She goes, that basic panel came back worse than it did a month and a half ago. And she goes, the second round of blood work that we did, the more in depth, she's like, she goes, I'm not sure what's going on. She said, but I forwarded all of your information to a hematologist and they're going to call you. So I get off the phone with her and I'm just thinking to myself, what is going on? Because she told me that she thought it was a vitamin B deficiency. So I'm like, is it normal to have to go see a hematologist for that? So I didn't know, right? So Sunday night rolls around and I get a phone call from this doctor. Well, I don't walk around the house with my cell phone, okay? So he calls me and he leaves me a voice message, and I got this message really late Sunday night. I think it was like 11 o'clock. And he goes, hey, this is Dr. So-and-so. Your doctor forwarded all of your lab work to me. It looks bad. I can just see his face. So, whatever, it's 11 o'clock at night, I can't call you. So I figured that I would call Monday morning at like 8 or 9 o'clock. Get up for work, get in the car, start driving, my phone rings. Hey, this is Dr. So-and-so. He always said, hey. Hey, this is Dr. So-and-so. Look, I have your labs. They look bad. I was like, dude, whatever happened to bedside manner, right? He goes, looks bad. You need to come and see me. I said, all right. He goes, so listen, I have an appointment set up for you tomorrow. in the morning. You got to come and see me tomorrow so we can talk about this. And then I have a bone marrow biopsy set up for you on Wednesday. What? I was like, I'm driving. Are you trying to make me a wreck? I was like, wait a second. Wait, what is going on? What's happening? He said, I don't want to talk about that right now. He goes, I don't want to talk about that right now. You come and see me tomorrow. We'll talk. So, now listen, I had already missed like 2 weeks of work. So here I am, I'm getting ready to miss another day of work, and I'm freaking out because I'm thinking to myself, they're going to fire me on the spot. Get on the phone, I call my manager. Hey, it's Felicia. I'm not going to be in tomorrow morning. She goes, what do you mean? I said, look, so I went into the story and I told her. I said, he wants me in tomorrow morning. I said, I can work in the afternoon. So I go in to see this doctor in the morning on a Tuesday. So honestly, you guys, I'm freaking out. I don't know what's going on. At this point, I mean, everything is just like, everything's up in the air, right? So I'm sitting there. He comes in, pulls up the blood work. He turns the computer screen and he says, this is bad. Something is going on in your body. Something is wrong. This is abnormal. And I'm just like, what the heck? So of course, I started to get a little upset and I got teary-eyed and stuff. And I said, I'm really sick then? I was like, am I gonna die? What's happening? He goes, no, you're not gonna die. He goes, but listen, you need to have this bone marrow biopsy tomorrow. Once you have that, then we'll know more. I said, fine, whatever. So it's like, I already told my boss about Wednesday, okay? But I told her that I could work after. Oh, no. So listen, I go in Wednesday, have this bone marrow biopsy, which, by the way, they do not give you anesthesia. They don't knock you out. They hammer into your bone to take marrow out. Oh, God, I've had that done 4 times. Worst pain. I've had 2 kids, one of which epidural didn't work, and I walked on a broken ankle for 2 days before I had a cast put on, okay? So I understand pain. This pain was right up there with contractions. Maybe a little worse. Maybe. Doesn't last as long, but it's pretty bad. So I go in, I have the bone marrow biopsy done. He says to me, call me on Monday. We'll discuss the results. I said, okay, cool. So we're in the car and I'm driving home and I was like, oh my God, there's no way I can work today. My husband's like, yeah, what do you mean? I was like, well, I told my manager that I could work this afternoon. He's like, what's wrong with you? I said, I don't know. I'm like, I feel bad. I keep missing work. So he called my boss. My husband did. Told her that I wasn't going to be in. I mean, honestly, it was that bad. They gave me a Percocet. As soon as I got home, I popped that sucker and I was out for the rest of the night. So Thursday rolls around, I'm working, I'm driving, minding my own business, phone rings. I was like, come on. I look at my phone, I knew it was him. I answer the phone. Hey, it's Dr. So-and-so. I got your biopsy results back. I was like, wait a second. You told me you weren't going to get these back until Monday. What's going on? He goes, well, the pathologist called me. You need to come and see me tomorrow. Nope. I was like, no. I said, listen, I will come and see you tomorrow, but after work. He goes, no, you don't understand. At this point, I was getting so tired of being told I don't understand. He said, listen, you have to come and see me tomorrow morning because we may have to take steps. And I was like, okay, that's it. What's going on? He said, I'm not going to talk to you about this over the phone. He goes, you need to come and see me tomorrow. I said, fine, whatever. I said, if I lose my job, you're going to hire me in your office. So I called my boss. I told her what was going on. And I said, look, this is pretty serious. Something's happening. I don't know what it is. But I have to go see him tomorrow morning. So she's like, okay. She goes, what about next week? I said, I don't know. I said, I will call you tomorrow. I have no clue what's going on. So the doctor told me that I had to be in the office at 11 o'clock in the morning. So remember when I told you guys it was November 11th, 2011? 11 o'clock in the morning, I was at the doctor's office. All right, so my husband's with me. We're sitting there. The doctor walks in. He didn't say anything at first, and he turns and looks at me and he goes, so how are you? I said, I'm fine. I'm a little anxious though. It's like, what's going on? So he wasn't the kind of person that was subtle. He looks at me and he goes, you've got cancer. And I just sort of sat there and I was like, what? I remember saying that. I was like, what? He said, you've got cancer. You have leukemia. And I kind of laughed and I was like, I said it again. I was like, what? I'm like, what do you, I was like, I don't understand. What do you mean? Cancer. He goes, you have cancer. You have leukemia. It's a cancer of the blood and the bone marrow. You have cancer. I just sat there for a minute because what do you do? You know, like how do you react to that, right? I don't know. So, but what was really bad about this, okay, my husband is sitting next to me, and my husband's father died from lung cancer. His stepfather died from cancer, right? So, like, cancer has taken people that he loves, you know, just like it has for a lot of people. So I've never experienced it before. No one in my family's ever had cancer, so this was new for me. On top of it being me, right? So anyway, I'm sitting there and I kind of did one of these things, and I just kind of looked at my husband, and his eyes had were all welled up. They were all red. The doctor looks at me and he goes, look, I'm going to step out. I need to go make some arrangements for you. I'll be back. So my husband gets down on the floor in front of me and he says, I want you to fight this with everything that you have. And I'm just staring at him because I'm just like, what do you mean? I didn't laugh, okay, but it's like, I didn't know what to say. And I just looked at him and I said, I remember telling him, don't worry. Because I didn't feel sick. How can you tell me that I've got cancer? You're telling me that I have cancer. I don't feel sick at all. So, like, this was just like, this wasn't registering in my brain. Like, nothing was registering in my brain. You know, so my husband's upset and he's in front of me, and I'm just like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. Because, first of all, I didn't think that I had cancer. Secondly, I'm not dying. Like, what do you mean? So the doctor comes back in and he said, listen, you need treatment immediately. He said, you have to start chemotherapy immediately. Okay, so that was another shocker, because I'm thinking to myself, all right, I've got cancer. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go someplace. They're going to give me chemo. I'm going to go home. You know, I thought it was going to be like that. Oh, no, that's not how it works with leukemia. So he says to me, you need to go home and pack. I was like, what? Pack for what? He said, you're going to be in the hospital for 4 to 6 weeks. And I just stared at him and I said, 4 to 6 weeks straight? Without going home? He goes, yes, you cannot go home. You're going to be in the hospital. I was like, holy cow. Like everything, my whole world in a matter of just seconds had completely been turned upside down. So you're telling me I have cancer. Now you're telling me I have to be in the hospital away from my family for possibly 6 weeks. He said, look, he goes, you're going to go into the hospital today. They're going to put a line in your chest. They're going to start you on chemotherapy immediately. He said, you are going to be on chemo for 24 hours a day for 7 days. He said, then for the first 3 days, on top of getting chemo 24 hours a day, you are going to get a very high dose chemo where a nurse is going to come in and she's going to manually push it into your port while you're getting chemo from the bag. I was just like, okay, sounds like fun. And then I think the worst part about all that was him telling me that I was going to have 3 more bone marrow biopsies. 3 more. I was so pissed, you know, and I'm just like, can this day get any worse? Like, can this day possibly get any worse? And it did. He then went on to tell me all of the bad things that could possibly happen to me from being on chemo, including dying. And I was just like, man, how do I deal with this? Like, how do I, like, I felt bad for my husband. I felt bad for my kids. And you guys want to know, some of you know this, at that time, we had been saving almost all year long to move. We were moving to Texas in a month. I had some of my house packed. There were boxes packed in my kitchen. And now all of a sudden I have to, we can't move because I've got to go through chemo. I have to stay in Cleveland now. It was like such a huge, shock. Like I wasn't expecting it. No one gave me any idea. I had no idea. So anyway, we leave, get in the car. I don't really know what to say. And I'm trying to stay, like, keep it together. I'm trying to stay strong because I felt so bad for my husband. Like, I felt so bad for him. Because it's not just my life. It's his life, too, and my kids. Like, when you have cancer, it doesn't just affect you. It affects everybody and everything. And what kept running through my brain was, holy crap, I can't work. He's going to have to take care of everything. I'm not going to be home. Who's going to clean the house? Who's going to take care of the kids? Like, you know, like all of these things are running through my brain because this was such an inconvenience. So we're in the car. My husband calls my dad and we get home. And I remember I was standing in the kitchen. I was eating pretzels. I felt okay. Like I was like, all right, whatever. This is my life. This is going to be life right now. So, you know, let's just get on with it. Let's just do it. You know, let's just get this done. So my dad walks in and he looks at me and he says, hi, honey. And I immediately knew at that moment, because I saw his face, I immediately knew at that moment that I did not want anyone's pity. I didn't want anyone feeling sorry for me. I refused to be a victim to this. It was like at that moment I made that decision because I saw it in my dad's face and I was like, oh my God, he's looking at me like I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna die from this, you know? So my husband leaves, he goes to pick up, my timer is flashing. My husband leaves, he goes to pick up my kids so that we could all go down to the hospital. And so yeah, that was how I was diagnosed. That's what happened that day. That day changed my whole life. I'm not the same person now that I was before I had cancer, because it really does. It changes you. And you don't even, sometimes, you know, I think to myself, and this is just for me, but I just wonder about other people, like, is your life different because you decided to live it differently? Or is your life different because you didn't feel like you had a choice? You know, like, things are different for me. I'm a different person now, and I almost feel like I didn't even have a choice in the matter. It just happened. Because when you go through something like that, it really does change you. You kind of look at things differently. You look at life a little bit differently, and that has stayed with me. That's what the tattoo on my arm is. This tattoo up here. This tattoo represents my fight, my battle, my struggle with cancer. And the fact that I came out winning. I survived. I was beat down, sick, just completely and utterly destroyed. But I made it through. And so that's what this represents. That's why she looks the way she does. That's why she looks sort of like beat up and she looks a little haggard, you know, but she's also ready for more. That's what my tattoo represents. Because even though I went through what I did, if it came back tomorrow, I'd be like, all right, let's do this, you know, because I know if I made it through once, I can do it again. So anyway, that's it. I could keep going on and talk about like experience and stuff, but I just really wanted to talk about like what type of cancer I had and how I was diagnosed, because like I said, people seem to just really be interested in how I was diagnosed or how I found out. So, oh, and one more thing I want to tell you. So, you know how I mentioned November 11th, right? So I was diagnosed on November 11th of 2011, which is 11/11/11. My doctor's appointment was at 11 o'clock in the morning. When I got to the hospital, the leukemia floor is G111, the 11th floor, and yes, I was sent to room 11. I had all these 11s. It's the weirdest thing. So anyway, that's it, you guys. I'm gonna go. If you're interested in anything else as far as like my experiences and what I went through, I can make a separate video talking about like things that happened, because going through chemo and being in the hospital, that was not a cakewalk. It was difficult and I went through a lot, but I don't really want to get into that in this video today, because this would be an hour long, which I don't want it to be an hour long. I'm already at like 27 minutes. So, but if anybody's interested, and enough people are interested in knowing my experiences, I can make another video, but I'm going to keep that separate for today. So anyway, my voice is starting to hurt. I gotta go. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye.